Hello Seabourn sailors, I am Andrew Johnson and I'm a Seabourn conversationalist. I've had the pleasure of talking on board for the last 13 or 14 years and I talk about some of the things that fascinate me. Travel, the explorers, the impact of world trade on these marvellous places that we get to visit, and the diversity of language and culture. It is a real privilege to be a guest member of the wonderful team and to help to create some of these marvellous memories that we all share, whether it's here on the Sailors site or in our day-to-day lives. In terms of world trade, well, international trade goes back millennia. It certainly predates Roman times. The Vikings were one of the great trading people, and their commercial empire stretched from the Canadian Maritimes through Greenland, Iceland, back through Ireland, Scandinavia, Europe and off into Asia. In fact, there is a bit of graffiti which is still visible today in the Hagia Sophia Mosque in Istanbul that tells us that one Viking called Haflan was there. I'm interested by the development of modern day travel, which, as with us, is principally for pleasure and edification. And that really changed in the 18th century with the Grand Tour, where wealthy young men would travel to Italy to finish their education in culture and the arts. They would be accompanied by a group leader or a mentor, a guardian, a chaperone, who was known as a bear leader. And his job was to introduce them to the sculpture, the fine arts, the beauty, the written word, and to encourage them to practice these things themselves, to improve their own techniques. But he would also introduce them to a few other things that he would encourage them to practice as well. The food, the fine culinary arts of Italy, the great wines, and some of the pleasures of the flesh as well. Of course, today we travel on wonderful grand voyages. We are so fortunate, aren't we? In terms of my background, I'm an international chief executive. My main business operates in 37 different countries around Europe. In the corporate head office, we have a team of 12 different nationalities. And as you can imagine, there are occasional misunderstandings or issues that need to be managed through carefully to make sure that we get the right answer and get the right solution. And I am always impressed by the marvellous Seabourn team. So many nationalities, so many different backgrounds who work together like a well-oiled machine and make things happen with smiles on their faces every time. You know, it was Winston Churchill, the famous British wartime Prime Minister, who said, "The United States of America and the United Kingdom are two great nations divided by a common language." Well, he may not have come up with that thought totally originally, but he certainly made it very famous. And I am very impressed by his use of the English language and his ability to stir people's hearts. In terms of transatlantic differences, well, one of the great differences is the bathroom, the restroom, the toilet, the lavatory, the loo. There are so many different names for this. Back in the 1970s, a dear, dear friend of ours from US America came over to visit in London and stayed with other friends in a big Victorian house on the outskirts of London. And after dinner on her first night, she turned very quietly to her hostess and said, "Could I visit the bathroom, please?" And so the hostess turned to her husband and said, "George, she'd like to see the bathroom." Well, George, who was so impressed by his own Victorian plumbing, was absolutely chuffed to little meatballs to be able to take her up the stairs and show her just along the corridor where the bathroom was. And of course in there was a beautiful Victorian cast iron bath with claw feet, and there was a fantastic ceramic wash basin. But that was it. There was no WC to be seen. So thinking quickly, she said, "Could I go to the restroom?" And he said, "Well, yes, of course." He realised that he had someone here who was interested in Victorian architecture. So he took her down the stairs and along the hallway and opened the door, and in there was a salon, a sitting room, a lounge, whatever you may call it. Beautiful furniture, brocade curtains, fabulous Turkish carpets. But there was no WC in sight. And so at this point she had to steel herself and say, I think I need the lavatory. To which he replied, oh, you should have said when we were upstairs. It's right next to the bathroom. Oh, it's not only individuals who can find this difficult. The corporate world makes mistakes occasionally as well. When Toyota launched that fabulous little sports car of theirs, the MR2, it was a great success in the English-speaking world and in Asia, but totally bombed in France. And it was a failure until one Frenchman explained to them that MR2 in French would be pronounced MR2 or merde, which means a pile of poo. You've got to be careful. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for the privilege of speaking on board these ships, working with the best cruise team in the world without any doubt at all, and travelling with the best passengers as well. Thank you for Brogan for making this opportunity possible. My dear friend, I am grateful to you, and to Lorraine for all the wonderful work in making Seabourn Sailors such a success. And I look forward to catching up with all of you sometime soon on board. Thank you.